Getting the call that your grandchild has been removed from their home is never a call anyone wants to receive, but it's a reality for many West Virginians.
I mean, I've always wanted to be a grandparent, when you get, your family and, your kids go to college and they start their life and stuff, but when you get that call that you have to take care of your grandchild, it's hard. I didn't want this, I love my grandkids, but it's like that line where you're a grandparent, but you're a mother, and that's hard.
According to the 2019 U.S. Census numbers, more than half of all grandparents in West Virginia live with and are responsible for their own grandchildren that are 18 or younger, making West Virginia the second in the nation for grandparents raising grandchildren. And the numbers only continue to rise. Statistics from the West Virginia DHHR say that not only is there a general increase in kids in foster care, but that kinship and relative placements are on the rise.
Really, in the law, the goal is reunification. That's the number one. There is a grandparent statute that gives preference to grandparents, but that's about as far as it goes. I know that we do, just as a state and as, West Virginians, we like to keep children with their families. I mean, that is huge. And so we all do our best to make that happen, and if it is a possibility, if there's a safe home, then that's our goal and that's what we push for.
Tell her what you're playing with.
While each situation is different, many experts are linking the drug epidemic in West Virginia to the foster care crisis the state is currently going through. Statistics from the National Data Archive on Child Abuse and Neglect indicate that 51% of West Virginian kids in foster care enter because of parental substance abuse, compared to the 38% national average.
My daughter had a full scholarship at Fairmont State doing cross country, and she was 6th in the state. And she got introduced to the wrong person, started doing drugs. I didn't even know that she was doing drugs at the time. She was pregnant, and my granddaughter, Chloe, was a month premature, not really healthy and everything, and CPS got a hold of me, and I started taking care of Chloe and raising her, and eventually adopt her. And then I have Josh now, and that's just the same process that he had withdrawals when he was born, and several drugs in his system and everything, so we adopt him too.
Healthy Grandfamilies is a program that was created in direct response to the increase in kinship families. Last year, we interviewed them about the program when classes were still in person.
The sessions itself are 8 weeks. We meet once a week for 2 hours. We provide a meal, which are all donated from different restaurants and organizations in Harrison County. We also provide childcare. We have presenters come in and they present on the topic, whatever it may be, and they really range from nutrition to parenting in the 21st century, which is a big one, to addiction and trauma, and how to actually advocate for their own health literacy and stuff like that.
Since the pandemic, Julie Salmon now heads the Harrison County program, and the meetings have moved online. Salmon says that they're also doing more outreach, such as delivering food, making sure to call to check up on the grandfamilies, and trying to connect them with resources.
I think it's interesting that you get the idea that they're not tech savvy, and I think that's false. I think this group is more tech savvy than we think. So I think it's just that the kids are home. So that's a challenge, to have a support group virtually when your kids are around and you don't want them to hear, because these are sensitive adult topics sometimes.
However, Peter says that having the support of other grandparents and the camaraderie of the program hasn't changed, and that was one of the most important parts of the program to her, especially with the isolation associated with COVID.
It's hard because I don't take the kids to Walmart or nothing because of their health conditions and stuff, because both of them have asthma and allergies. And Josh has ended up in the hospital this year because of it. With the grandparents, us doing the phone calls, for about an hour and a half every 2 weeks is great. It's a great program to just get in touch with one another and take turns and ask how everybody's doing. So it's really nice just to connect with other grandparents, even though the COVID situation is still there, but we still try to stay connected with each other.
Yes,
Peters says that even aside from COVID, isolation can be a huge problem for grandfamilies, and it inspired her to write a book called From the Heart of a Grandparent Incorporated that tells short stories of grandparents raising grandchildren. When the book is published, she wants the proceeds to go to grandparents who need immediate assistance.
The grandparents, they always think they're alone. You know, that was my worst fear, mainly because I'm starting school all over again for Chloe and Josh, and going to school and realizing, okay, there's going to be younger parents there, but now it isn't, you know, because there's a lot of people that are raising their grandchildren. So when I go to that school and I'm standing there waiting for her to come outside and I see other grandparents out there, you know I'm not alone. So I just want, grandparents to, realize that they're not alone.
In the past year, the number of children in foster care in West Virginia has slightly decreased. Some speculate that the numbers could be due to a lack of reports during the pandemic, since kids weren't going to school in person.
We are all, the entire system, not just me, every agency, every organization in the state of West Virginia, we're bracing for this massive influx of referrals because our teachers are the ones who see these children every day. They would notice if they're underfed or if they're bruised or if something's wrong with them. And those are our mandated reporters. Those are the ones that make those phone calls. And a lot of these children, they just haven't seen in a long time, or they're not seeing frequently enough to make that determination of should they make that call. There are never enough foster homes, whether they're kinship homes, whether they're regular foster homes, there's never enough of them. So to think that we may have, this massive increase in referrals and all these children that need homes is very scary. It's sad.
Leah Smith was a kinship foster parent before becoming a recruiter for NECO. She says if somebody is worried that they might have to step in for a loved one, they should go ahead and get licensed, either with NECO or the DHHR. The classes to get licensed are free, and there is no obligation to open your home right away.
Because like in my case, I always say that I wish I would have been licensed earlier so that I wasn't scrambling to get all that done after my son was already in foster care. So if you have a relative, if you know of a child that you have a relationship with or a bond with, and it seems like they may be taken into CPS care at some point, it can't hurt to go ahead and start the licensing process and just go ahead and get that going. And that way you're ready. And if it ever happens, God forbid, that's not something we want to hear. But if it does happen, then that gives you a leg up and you can reach out and say, I'm ready, come out and check me out and bring the child.
Michelle Peters also offers some advice to grandparents who might have to raise their grandchildren.
When I got Chloe, she was very young and I had to feed her every hour, and not being prepared in that situation was very hard for me because I didn't get a lot of sleep. So my advice would just try to be prepared. I know that's not easy because when you get that phone call like I did and you're on the spot, are you willing to take care of your grandchild? And, absolutely, yes. But you just try to be prepared. And there is other funding out there for grandparents, and just reach out to family, friends, and they'll help. There's a lot of resources out there that's willing to help.
More information on NECO, healthy grandfamilies, and other resources across the state are available below. For WBOY, I'm Shayla Klein in Clarksburg.